Hey everyone, I'm Gonzo, this is Mark. Today we're talking about 6th edition Dungeons & Dragons and what we know so far. Wait a minute, Mark. You're telling me I've bought the player's handbooks, I've bought the Dungeon Master's Guide, I've bought the monster manuals, I've bought all the adventures, I've bought the dice that are colored like the adventures, I've bought them on D&D Beyond, I've went and purchased them for Fantasy Grounds and Roll20, and now we're going to have a 6th edition D&D? This is crazy! So if you like the content of our videos, please hit the like button on here. Let us know you liked it, and in the comments below, tell us what you think about 6th edition Dungeons & Dragons, if you care at all. But also, more importantly, hit the subscribe button if you haven't subbed, and check us out on our Discord. Alright, Mark, listen to this. The word on the street is that there's a clamor for 6th edition D&D to come out already. Can you believe that?
Well, I don't know about a clamor. There was a couple articles on comicbookresource.com that they kind of asked the question. They're like two different articles where they were talking about 6th edition and what they'd like to see, and they kind of made it hinted like it was coming, like imminent. But
It's not the case.
No. You look at, so going back, there's several articles, more articles on the internet. Washington Post had an article about how Dungeons & Dragons somehow became more popular than ever. You know, in the old days, they could never think that it would be this popular. Right. And then CNBC, they had an article, Dungeons & Dragons found something that early fans never expected popularity. And then there's other articles in The Guardian talks about how there's no more, they're not nerds, it's Dungeons & Dragons finally became cool because celebrities and all are playing it.
Yeah, Hollywood's embraced it.
Exactly. And so if you look at the popularity, I mean, in the article, CNBC article, it talks about the sales from the books have been double digits every year, increase. Yeah. You know, and if you look on Amazon, I mean,
yeah,
go out.
Try this at home. Go on your Amazon and look up under books, look up under games, and just type in bestsellers, you know, or pop that in and see what pulls up. We just did this today, I think, and the first 14 out of the first 20 top sellers, including the top 5, were all D&D Wizards of the Coast materials.
Absolutely.
They're dominating the market there.
All right, so what are the people at the higher ups saying? You know, of course, maybe they're talking about. Maybe they're even thinking about. No. Mike Merles put out a tweet in 2017 where back then he was saying that the sales of the Player's Handbook was greater than all of the other editions combined.
Right.
And then he went on to say that they were not even working on 6th edition, and they didn't have any. It's not even something they were considering. This was in 2018. 2018, he was saying they're not even thinking about 6th edition.
Right.
When you look at the sales and the success of it, it just doesn't make sense, really.
Well, it's exploding everywhere. We see it everywhere we go now. We see it now. We're looking for it, but even the casual fan out there can find Dungeons & Dragons, whether you're watching Stranger Things.
Absolutely.
Or a lot of the things that, you know, any show that may relate back to the 80s when the game was getting really popular.
Yeah, on Twitch, there's tons of people playing and recording and broadcasting they're playing. Critical Role got to start on Twitch and just exploded, and it really started a lot of this on Twitch anyway. So it was kind of a critical mass. It reached where we had the sales and we had the show Critical Role, and they all started with 5th edition and how approachable it was for players. Right. New players could learn it kind of easy, and it wasn't, as we would say, as crunchy as the other editions.
Another way to learn the game is from YouTube.
Yeah,
and we both learned a lot of the game just from watching YouTube. In fact, there's crazy D&D YouTube channels starting all the time.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought that?
Who would have thought?
All right, so let's look at this, you know, logically. What do we even need to have a 6th edition with all the success of 5th edition so far?
So what would have to happen?
What would have to happen? So what do you think, Gonzo? What would we need?
Well, I think one of the things would be that sales would have to dip.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a company. It's owned by Hasbro, correct?
Yes.
And, it is all about money at the end of the day. As much as we love the hobby and we love the creativity behind it and all the benefits, it is about the money. And so if sales were dipping or low, or there was another product out there that was beating it or coming close,
right?
Which I know in 3rd edition Pathfinder was really close at some point, and it isn't the case anymore, at least generally. So sales would have to dip. That's definitely one.
All right, and what else would have to happen? I mean, all right, so sales go down, but what else would have to be? What about the general consensus of the people?
The people would have to be tired of the game. They would have to feel like the game is either stale, it's broken, there's too much product out there.
Right.
That's definitely not the case. There's clamoring for more and more product all the time, and Wizards has been very good at withholding and only releasing three or four books a year or something. Right. Where in third edition there was every month they called it splat books. They were just coming out all over the place.
Yeah, I think they learned in the past not to to kind of let things breathe a little bit, put it out there, let it breathe a little bit, everyone to kind of digest that book and start using it, start to get a feel for it, and then come out with another one. Now, you brought up third edition. You look at the evolution. What happened back then? What had to happen? Or third. Let's talk about fourth edition. This is controversial here. Third and fourth both had problems. Fourth. The reason we have a fifth edition is because fourth edition had some real issues. Yeah, it did not take off like they wanted to. You look at third edition, they needed to fix it, so they had a 3.5 that came out. So we'll talk more about that in a moment. But really, what's got us into this? Like, we need more. We need the next one. Why do we have that mentality? We're even talking about a sixth edition.
It could be just the nature of our society nowadays. I mean, we're in a nature where a society where we're always looking to upgrade. I mean, our phones, every year there's a new one. Right. And apparently it has an even better camera and an even faster interface and all kinds of bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, you could keep your phone 4, 5, 6 years and they work really good. The apps still work. Right. My wife still has the iPhone 6. I just changed, from the iPhone 6, but I mean, you don't have to change every year. There are people that are hooked on that every year. They want the newest and greatest. We do the same thing with TVs and technology in general. The hobby's a lot different.
Right. No, I agree. And so the iPhone, I think, iPhone's a great example of that. So iPhone's got to the point where they can't go much. You can't get better. The camera's as good as it get. Yeah. The processor's as fast as it get. They can make some little tweaks here and there, but it really is about little iterations. And now if you look at the iPhone, the sales themselves are starting to drop because it's kind of reached a point where it's as good as it's going to get, right?
It's good. So why change it?
Same thing with D&D. You look at D&D, and they have evolved. I mean, we're not sitting here on first edition. We're talking fifth edition. It's had iterations. It's evolved over time. It's gotten better over time to this point to where we're at. So it kind of feels like we're at a point where can it really get much better if it's firing all cylinders? The public seems to like it. The sales are really good. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? That's what they say in business. So from a business standpoint, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Doesn't seem like it would be around the corner at all. There's still so much that we're waiting to have and come out from them as far as product. There's so many more stories that can be told. And the rules are set in such a way, which is one of the keys, that you can quickly and easily make it the way you like it.
Absolutely.
So just the homebrew aspect of the way they designed the 5th edition rules really allows you to make it crunchier if you want it to be, or looser if you want it to be.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, is one of the best parts about it, is that it endears it to everyone because they can make it their game.
So it sounds like I'm not hearing that we're talking 6th edition even. No. Is there a middle point that we could maybe? What's our next iteration?
Yeah, I mean,
after this?
I've seen other people talk about maybe there would be a 5.5 or basically like an abridged version of what we have now. We do have several products that are out there from Xanathar's Guide and other things that have different races, subclasses, things that you can do, racial feats.
Right.
And maybe if this was all aggregated together, something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have one book where you can go to and get all that stuff together. And it does kind of feel weird that you go to this book to get, I think, a race here and a class over here. It would be kind of nice to have them all together.
I know Adventures League would be really happy with that because as the way it's written now, Adventures League could use Player's Handbook plus one book. Yeah, they would love to have the Player's Handbook have everything in there, right?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, so you keep what works and you aggregate all those. And I know a pain point, we've seen videos on this, and we've talked a little bit about it, is to fix the combat system.
You can always work to improve. I mean, we do that. We always homebrew it in all our games, and I know you guys do at home too, but maybe if they came up with different alternatives, maybe the next Player's Handbook or whatever they came up, 5.5 version, would have more options for you as a Dungeon Master or as a playing group to fix combat or to make it better or faster or grittier, however you want.
Yeah, you might want to improve initiative, and that's I know a pain point for some people. And I saw an interesting thing, and there's in Marvel's Heroic, they have a thing called the Doom Pool, which is kind of like sort of like an initiative pool kind of thing. You've done some pretty cool things. You build this pool, and then later you can draw from that pool. And so how you'd apply it in D&D is like you would you go to do something really epic. I want to slide this shield down the stairs while I'm firing arrows, and rather than rolling acrobatics checks or any kind of other checks and all, you say I want to do that, and then the DM might say, well, that'll take about 3 of those points from their pool. So, you take those and you've done it, so it saves the rolls.
Yeah.
So basically what you're doing is you're taking away all the rolls except for the ones you have to have for combat.
So it streamlines it, but allows players to be creative and epic at the same time. And
so that's just one example of what a person might do. So you talked about magic. You said that magic.
Well, I like, and we've talked about this in our Dark Sun video, but I do like where magic has a cost, more than just the spell components and what you have to do to cast the spell.
Right.
Like the spell slot. I like it to actually physically have a cost either the player or on the world around them.
Right.
Maybe even certain magics like elemental magic or something. But I would like that option kind of spelled out for me in a way where I could use that if I wanted, where it could be a grittier magic system, kind of like Dungeon Crawl Classics has in their game or something, where it affects you. Or referring back to Dragonlance, how Raceland, got all that power, but it cost him his health. And,
a drain on him. That's a good point. And we could certainly do something with short rest and long rest.
Well, we did a whole video on the resting system and how that needs to be.
A link up
again, I think like when we talk about these things, it feels like if you want to make the game a little bit grittier and not as video gamey, I think we're leaning towards that. Maybe they could have more options built in that way in another 5.5 version where they give you these options. And
Gonzo, does every playable race have to have dark vision?
Everyone does, just about, except for poor humans and a gnome, I think. But yeah, everyone else can see in the dark, so why have torches or tinder boxes? Or
poor DMs, yeah. So I think we made a pretty good case. I really think that the next iteration, when it comes, and we really don't think it's going to come anytime soon, unless the sales start dropping and public says, hey, we need something better, which we do not see happening for any time in the short run. Then if and when it does come, 5.5 makes a lot more sense. You're not really tinkering things too much that you're going to break it. That would be the real fear if I were Wizards of the Coast. So I'm going to feel like I tinker with it, and then I break it, and then no one wants to play. And that would not be good. So if it were me, the safer route, and if I were them, I'd be all about the safer route, is to try to make everybody happy kind of somewhat, and just fix little things, tweak it here and there. And 5.5 makes a lot more
options
sense.
Are always good.
And with that,
class dismissed.